everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. It's nice to have everybody back at the Capitol, and it's my pleasure to begin our press conference by introducing Commissioner Ravella, our Commissioner of Public Safety.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. Hey, this is a good day for law enforcement around the state and for the state police. There's a very robust ARPA package that OPM will be putting out for law enforcement across the state. I'm not going to mention numbers particularly, but I'm going to give you different areas that we're going to explore. Some time ago, we entered into a memo of understanding with New York State, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts to talk about how guns move and how they move in and out of the state. Well, that MOU needs some substance, and that substance is how do we back it up? And the state police will be starting a gun task force. This task force was around, I want to say 2013. But there's a robust piece to this that means we're going to be bringing in locals also for this task force with a reimbursement for their salaries. Very important. Guns and drugs. Really, they run hand in hand, and you can't get away from them. The state police will be funded for a drug interdiction squad also to go with this. They're the folks that are going to be on the highways. So we've also identified different areas for public safety on the highways, areas that are more prone to accidents or fatalities. Unfortunately, I just don't have the troopers to dedicate solely to this, so they'll be on an overtime basis, but they will be paying a lot of attention to those different areas. The state lab, really a key player in all of this. As just a partner for the Rapid DNA. Now, Rapid DNA has been with us for well over a year. There's been a Rapid DNA site in Meriden. There's also been one at the Waterbury Police Department. This will allow us some funding to continue the expansion of Rapid DNA to the eastern part of the state, and also for a mobile Rapid DNA. What that is, folks, is when officers and crime scene technicians around the state at crime scenes collect evidence, they can have a result in almost 30 to 90 minutes, depending on the size of the sample. This is a lead that they never had before. Our NARBIN, which is our ballistic index, which is connected to ATF, who actually runs this. The kiosk in Meriden also has an ability for an officer or a trooper to go down there and enter a ballistic shell casing into the system and then possibly get a hit within 24 hours or less. That's a lead that's so important to local law enforcement. If they have that, they'll know which group might have fired this and the connections to other casings or other shootings around the state or country. Drug sniffers. Usually there are four-legged ones, but this one's going to be different. There's going to be a few places around the street, around the state that will actually give you a rapid test on what is actually in that bag, which is heartening to me because fentanyl, fentanyl is killing 1,400 people in our state every year. The idea is to get that tested immediately, get it out to the community groups, get it to law enforcement's hands, and make a difference sooner than later. There's some other technical things that Dr. Valera also put on there to include high-speed Microsoft, some computer programs, and some other microscopes. So let me talk about intelligence centers for a minute or two. Really, when we get into the hub and spoke theory that we used in Hartford 6 and 8 years ago, what that is the hub for regions around the state are the cities, and the spokes are the towns. Bad guys or bad girls do not know boundaries. They don't know city limits. They go wherever. They move around the state very quickly. So again, we are going to fund local municipalities to make a difference in violent crime and to make a difference in auto theft. We are also going to fund numerous crime centers around the state so we can move data very quickly to the folks that need it, those officers on the street that need that information in a more timely manner. You may or may not seen C4. Well, Waterbury has one also, besides Hartford. Bridgeport is building theirs. New Haven is in the concept area with all their cameras. So a lot is going on. Stanford, Norwalk, and our eastern cities that are also going to get some benefit from this. So the hub is at city. The spokes are all the towns and around it. And it's working. And I say that with just a little hesitation, because the year-end numbers I've seen are starting to decline. Even though I haven't seen one or two police departments, bigger police departments, I'm starting to see a decline in auto theft. But we are going to see a big increase in homicides from last year. And I believe we may see a reduction in those people that are non-fatally shot. That is information that should be with us in the next month or two as we clean up some of the data. The data is subject to different systems that each police department uses. Hiring. You know what? The governor's put on 255 troopers since 2019. There's 62 or so scheduled to come out March. There's another 100 or so scheduled to go in after that, and another 100 to go in after that. So the hiring is still very important to rebuild the ranks of the state police. We are presently around 900 troopers, and we're about to hit that cliff where folks are retiring. This is a messy job to hire and to rebuild the state police. But folks, the governor didn't get you into this mess, nor did I, but we're certainly going to get you out of the mess and rebuild the state police with manpower. So I'll be here for questions, but I think that covers the majority of our different areas. LG, who's next? Okay.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. I'm so proud to be here because Connecticut is one of the safest states in our country. Our violent crime rate is less than half the national rate. So that's something to be proud of, but we're here with a very robust set of legislative proposals and policy initiatives because one shooting is too much. The Commissioner talked about how our administration is working hard to put many more state troopers out on our highways and in our communities. We're investing in our local law enforcement. We're investing in our probation system to prevent recidivism. And we are announcing a statewide violence prevention initiative that's based in hospitals that is extremely innovative. And we're building on some of our legislative victories, like banning ghost guns and passing Ethan's Law. You know, nationally, 45% of all homicides involve gun violence. And here in Connecticut, 185 people die from gun violence and 576 people are wounded by guns. So that is why we are laser focused on initiatives to promote gun safety, because the figures I just gave you show you that gun violence is a daily tragedy. It's an epidemic, and we can't wait another day. As the person who is in charge of the Governor's Council on Women and Girls, I can't tell you how pleased I am that one of our legislative initiatives is to do something that the federal government already does. Federally, if you commit a crime of domestic violence and are convicted, you do not get a gun permit. We should do the same thing here in Connecticut, because sadly we had more than a dozen women killed by intimate partners last year in domestic violence situations, and we've seen an increase in the domestic violence rates in our state, especially during the pandemic. So you will see that we have a number of gun safety initiatives, building on Ethan's Law, building on our banning of ghost guns, and you're going to hear more about some of those initiatives. And I'm delighted to bring up Andrew Woods and Deb Davis. Andrew is leading in Hartford Communities That Care, and Deb Davis is with Moms United Against Violence. And I do want to recognize Kristen Song. You'll hear from Mike Song in a minute, and also recognize our partners, Representative Maria Horn, the Chair of Public Safety, Kate Roshman, and Alexis Gavanter from Moms Demand Action. So with that, I'm delighted to bring up Andrew Woods and Deb Davis.
Good evening, good afternoon. We are very anxious about what is supposed to happen with the gun violence prevention initiatives. And so representing Mothers United Against Violence, where the co-founder, Reverend Brown, and Mrs. Beckman are also here. And I just wanted to make sure I acknowledge the group that has been on boots on the ground for over 20 years now. And so our forefront efforts have really taken us to so many different levels. And so being part of the front line, we have recognized our inability to really effectively do the work. And with the proper resources, we know that we can get in front of some of the intervention methods and strategies that have been put forth between all of our groups that are on the front line and doing this work for so many years. And so we welcome these initiatives, and we welcome the fact that now folks from the community can now take advantage and do the work that they really need to do with the right type of resources. And of course, we applaud the governor for this initiative, and the lieutenant governor for this initiative, and everyone that is involved, which is the most important thing for us, because we know that the work really needs to be done, and that the prevention and intervention areas that we work in can certainly make a difference. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to be here today for a few reasons. One, to hear about some of the announcements that are being made and some of the resources that have already been committed by the governor and lawmakers here at the state capitol. You know, last year we were the first to pass a Medicaid bill that actually supports frontline workers, violence prevention professionals that actually work with hospital-based, hospital-linked organizations that work with victims of violent crime. But also, when you look at the ARPA funds that also the governor and lawmakers have been receiving, a lot of those dollars also synergistically can actually support some of this work as well. So when you think about the sector-based funding that is geared towards those in various, say, arenas or professions around, say, public health or even medical health or providers, sector-based funding can actually be a part of what helps to support some of the work that we're engaged in. When you think about some of the mental health investments that the governor and lawmakers have made around both child and adult mental health issues and challenges, some of those resources as well synergistically align with some of the work of those of us that do this work here in the state of Connecticut. And so I can go on and on, because if you ever saw the document, I've done a deeper dive, Governor, into that document, and I'll tell you there's more in there that actually supports and can support properly, again, synchronized with our work to help us both prevent and reduce violence and provide support for crime victims in the state of Connecticut. So thank you, Governor, for allowing us to be a part of the program today.
Roughly 4 years ago, we buried our son. And I suddenly realized that unsecured guns kill kids. Unsecured guns are killing kids in America. And the clock is ticking right now on some young child who's either going to get a hold of their parents' unsecured gun, perhaps they are going to commit suicide with that gun, maybe they'll take it to school like we saw in Michigan in November and kill some of their classmates. Unsecured guns kill kids. And when you are a parent and your child is killed unnecessarily in a completely preventable tragedy, it never leaves your mind that at the speed of opening a smartphone, the gun that killed my child could have been secured. Well, we know that these types of guns that are loose, easily found in the home, kill kids. Who saves kids? Who saves kids? I'll tell you who. The people behind me. They're never going to quit, just like us. My wife, Kristen, saves kids. They're championing Ethan's Law here in Connecticut, getting the word out, and now, thanks to Senator Blumenthal and Representative Rosa DeLauro, the bill has over 200 co-sponsors in Congress. Most states and most kids in this country live in states where there's no penalty whatsoever for an unsecured gun that kills a kid. Imagine getting a parking ticket and knowing that you have paid a deeper penalty, a more harsh penalty, than a person who causes the death of a child. As we watched Ethan's body being lowered into the ground, our hearts were broken, but our spirits turned to our mission. And as we lost our child forever, we gained a forever mission to keep kids safe. And I just want to thank the governor, Senator Blumenthal, everybody who put together this particular package of gun safety legislation and acts, because they are the heroes who are saving kids. And we're going to get Ethan's Law passed. It's going to be historic. We met with the president last week. We're going to keep going forward because we have a whole team of heroes from Moms Demand Action, Connecticut Against Gun Violence, Moms Against Gun Violence here that you've heard from today. And here's the good news. Kristen and I get up every morning and know that that day, while a child is going to die, we are making progress, and this is the evidence of it that you're seeing right here today. So I want to thank everybody here. And I would just say to any parent that's watching, if there's kids around, lock your guns down, and thank you for passing Ethan's Law here in Connecticut and helping to keep kids safe.
Mike, thank you so much. Research shows that the states with the toughest gun laws have fewer deaths by gun violence. And I'm proud to bring up Jeremy Stein, who's been a fierce advocate for increasing our gun safety laws. Jeremy.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Governor. And I especially want to thank everyone that's here, all the advocates that are here, Moms Demand Action, Hartford Communities That Care, Mothers United Against Violence, and so many others, and the state legislators that are here that support common sense gun laws. I think Susan said it best before about the number of people that are dying from gun violence. On average, every day someone is shot in Connecticut, and every other day someone is killed by a gun. If you are between the ages of 14 and 34 and you're a black male, you are probably going to die by gun violence. Not by a car, not by cancer, but by gunfire. We need to do something about this yesterday. So I applaud the governor and everyone that stands behind me who have been fighting for this for so long, that we have smart, common sense gun laws that are being proposed that will save lives. And I want to emphasize especially the proposal to establish a statewide strategy for tackling community gun violence. The governor's proposal to invest in community violence strategies is something that we have been supportive of for the last 2 years. We launched the Connecticut Initiative in 2020, but the fact that the governor is tackling this other public health crisis, which is gun violence, should be applauded. So we thank you. We thank everyone that's here today. We have a long road ahead of us to get this passed. And if you're listening, we need you. We need you now. We'll be here at the Capitol next week, making sure that we get this change done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeremy. Leading the fight at the federal level is our Senator Richard Blumenthal.
Thanks, Susan. Thank you to all the survivors, all the leaders and advocates who are here today. Thank you to the governor for, again, putting Connecticut at the forefront of fighting gun violence. We're here today to honor survivors. The best way to honor is with action. Honor with action. That's been our mantra since the day of Sandy Hook. Honor with action, and Connecticut is again at the forefront of common sense steps to stop gun violence. But let's be real. Guns have no respect for state borders. Our borders are vulnerable to the iron pipeline, and guns come across our borders every day to kill people here. Ghost guns via the internet come to Connecticut from places out of state. As much as Connecticut has strong gun laws, we are at the mercy of states with the weakest, because guns have no respect for state borders. So we need to give our law enforcers, and most especially our police, nationwide, the tools, training, and funding they need. We need to give our schools the resources they need in counseling and mental health professionals. And we need to take action at the federal level it is possible without legislation. A crackdown on ghost guns that the president has begun, and on that iron pipeline that moves guns across state borders, and money for the kinds of organizations that Connecticut has already. Brother Carl Hardrick's Institute, the Compass Youth Collaborative, community intervention programs to prevent gun violence before it happened, and before those 316 injuries every day in this country from gun violence and 106 deaths every day. This epidemic of gun violence is relentless. It takes our children and our moms and dads who happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And we are determined to pursue legislation, even as we urge executive action. I know we can have Ethan's Law at the federal level. I know we can do it. I know that colleagues will unite behind a common sense initiative that used to be supported by the NRA. And a red flag statute, again, modeled on Connecticut's statute, and universal background checks. These kinds of measures can be done because, and here's the blunt politics of it, these survivors and organizations have built a political movement. It's no longer about one or two advocates. Kristen and Michael's song, as effective as they are, they have helped build a political movement. And this November, we're going to see it at work. I can pledge to you, we will see nationwide initiatives, candidates taking a stand proactively on gun violence and putting it on the ballot. Gun violence will be on the ballot this November, and Connecticut, at the forefront of leading this effort, can be proud to have a governor like Ned Lamont, who has the courage to stand up to the gun lobby and gun manufacturers and to take a stand. Thank you.
Senator, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to introduce our governor, who's put health and public safety as his top priority every day, Governor Lamont.
All right, thanks, Susan and everybody. Look, I'm a champion for the state, and I am so proud of the fact that thanks to a lot of the people standing right here, we have some of the toughest gun safety laws in the country, and it makes a difference. As you heard Susan say, we are one of the safest states in the country, And unlike some of those states which have much more permissive gun laws and guns are everywhere, our gun violence is much less. And that's not good enough. I've just been shocked over this last couple of years. We have more damn guns in the street than ever before in this state right now. We have more legal guns, we have more illegal guns. As you heard Dick say, they're coming in from out of state. And more guns on the street, more guns in the home means more gun violence, and we're suffering from that gun violence. And that's why we are here today. I gotta say, you're not tough on crime if you're weak on guns. You're not tough on crime if you're weak on guns, and we're going to continue to stay tough on guns. And that starts with James Ravella. James Ravella and I are reconstituting the gun task force that was a key part of our state police going back many, many years, making sure that we're going after those big gun traffickers, those guys coming in and distributing guns by the dozens, by the hundreds. We're doing that in a collaboration with all of our neighboring states, in New York, New Jersey. You heard the announcement on that. Making sure we do everything we can to get those illegal guns off the street. You know, secondly, it's a lot easier to do that when you got cops on the beat. And one of the things, Susan and I have in this, current budget is making sure that we have all the DAs, all the prosecutors, all the support we need. I'm going to have, dozens of new judges being appointed so we can adjudicate things faster, and we need more cops on the street. Now, I'm calling on our mayors, I'm calling on the first selectman. With the resources you've got, I want to see 500 more cops on the street by the end of this year, 500 more cops on the street. And like James said, we've been adding classes of state police for the last 3 years. I'm particularly proud that it's the most diverse classes of state police we've ever had. More women, more cops of color, more brown, more black, more people who reflect the diversity of their communities, so that you know that your police, your community policing, are by, for, and about your community. And that's what we can do to make a difference. And then, look, for those few kids who are the repeat offenders, who are chronic, maybe gang-related, making sure we do everything we can to keep them off the street. What that means in terms of giving our judges the information they need to find out whether this is a first-time offense or perhaps a chronic offender going forward. What we need to make sure that you have an arraignment on a timely basis within 24 hours, and Judge Carroll is doing that, and we're going to do that even more when we get our additional judges online. I urge our legislators to please vote on our judges as soon as possible so we can get them doing the work we got to do. Justice delayed is justice denied. And finally, as Andrew and others said, the other 85% of these are just kids after 2.5 years of COVID hell, maybe a first offense, maybe running with a bad crowd, and we got to do everything we can to get them back in the game and standing up. And that's why what we're doing with the federal help from Dick Blumenthal and our amazing delegation, what we got in terms of extra resources for mental health, what we have in terms of additional counselors at our schools, what we have in terms of more after-school programs and activities. What a lot of these young kids don't need, they don't need a jail cell. Sometimes they need a shoulder they can lean on, and somebody helps them get back on track, maybe a job, a little hope and opportunity. So that's our mix when it comes to being tough on guns, tough on crime, tough on those repeat offenders, doing everything you can to get those vast majority of kids back on track. That's why we're here today, and that's what I hope the legislature follows up on over the course of the next couple of months. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you all being here.
Thanks, Governor, and thanks to our media partners, and we will open it up to all of these amazing experts for questions.
What in this agenda can be accomplished through executive order, and what needs to be accomplished through legislative action?
Well, I'll start with this. Paul, we work very closely with judiciary. We made sure that judges got all the information they need in the case of arrest, so they knew how to react. We made sure they could do that on a 24-hour basis around the clock. We didn't need legislative approval in order to do that. We need their approval in terms of additional resources so we can get some of the prosecutors and DAs and we need. We need their help in getting additional judges online, making sure we can speed up the wheels of justice. We do have additional resources so that we can have the gun task force there. That's something we want to do in association with the legislature.
So you need legislative approval to spend some of the ARPA money in the way that you're proposing. Right? In terms of the modifying the conceal and carry law, that's basically would require someone to show their gun permit on request by a police officer. That seems to have run into a lot of resistance in this building so far. Do you think that's something that you can accomplish this session?
No, James, you want to try with that?
When you listen to police officers around the state, well, they're very interested in bringing this one back up, right? We've noticed Rittenhouse out in Wisconsin, right? And part of this is also tied to disorder or public free speech, and that we have folks carrying around these guns intimidating free speech, and we have folks using those guns inappropriately. Police officers need the proper tools to keep themselves safe, to keep protesters safe, to keep regular citizens safe. So we did push a little bit. We'd like this one to come back up.
Could you give us from a law enforcement perspective, how difficult is that? Are you guys running into people who won't show them the permits? Is this a big problem?
There have been instances in the past where, can you hear me with the mask on? Okay. There have been instances in the past where law enforcement has asked for or confirmation of that someone is lawfully licensed to carry a firearm, and there have been instances where people have refused to do so. We believe that this law will address that issue where law enforcement can't ascertain whether someone is lawfully allowed to carry a firearm.
Commissioner, the regional group's been meeting since October. How would you characterize what's being accomplished among the 4 states that announced the regional cooperation in October?
Okay. The question is, the regional states, we've been meeting since October. Well, we've had commanders from the state police up in Albany, New York, speaking with several of the state police organizations. We had the colonel last week down in New York City, speaking with local law enforcement, the New York City police, and other state police enforcement. To simply have an MOU is an agreement to share information. But when we start to put the teeth to it, this is where you see the NIBIN increase. You start to see the boots on the ground to track down these firearms. You have to get into other people's databases in order to find out where that gun came from in a timely manner to the time it committed a crime.
I just noticed that Governor Murphy recently freed up several $1 million, maybe $7 or $8 million for gunshot detection. Is that something that we need more of in Connecticut, sir?
So the gunshot detection, we utilized it quite a bit in Hartford when I was the chief here. It actually tells you how many shots are fired in your city, what areas they're fired in, and you can use the data. Right? That's a decision that should be left to each and every municipality. New Haven uses it. I think Bridgeport uses it. It should be left to those folks if they want to utilize that form of technology.
Governor, when are you nominating these judges, and when will they be coming on board?
I'm interviewing them right now with Nora, and we're going to have that list before the Judiciary Committee, within a week or so, and I'd like to see them on board in the next 90 days.
And are we talking 15 judges? How many are we talking?
I think it'll be over 20, but let me get back to you on that, Chris.
Also, do you favor, regarding the juvenile crime, do you favor reopening the juvenile training school in Middletown?
I don't know, but I think we ought to look at it. I think having these young people in adult prisons doesn't work. The feds don't think it works, the advocates don't think it works, and I don't think it works. So let's find alternatives. Maybe that's one alternative if we do it right.
So the question was the ghost gun provisions that are in here now. Well, let's take ghost guns and dissect that just a little bit. Ghost guns can be bought, pieces can be bought around the country and delivered, right? If they don't have a serial number, that's a ghost gun to us. They have to inscribe some serial number on it and register with it. What we found is these ghost guns are popping up in municipalities at an alarming rate, to include the printed version for accessories. We also found that ghost guns pre-law are probably popping up on the street also. So, but by no means with this gun law do we want to affect antiques and start to put numbers on antiques. By no means do we want to do that.
So maybe I'm not understanding. You have to register a ghost gun?
Today's law, you have to register a ghost gun. If you make that gun from pieces, you have to come in and register that gun with the special license of firearms unit of the state police. And serialize it. So if it doesn't have a gun, you have to put a serial number on it that's consistent with what we issue.
What about this arm brace? I read here you're looking for a modification to the assault weapons ban to include some, and I don't know what that device is and why it wasn't covered in the extensive list of features that can disqualify a weapon in Connecticut.
Well, let me just pass you off to the lieutenant on there, if you would.
Okay.
The original assault weapon ban described a centerfire rifle, or an assault weapon as we colloquially define it as, to be something that is shoulder fired. And the weapon with an arm brace is not technically, if you're firing it legally in a legal manner, you're using that, what looks like a stock, but wrapping a strap around your forearm. What we're finding, however, is that people are buying them under the premise of using it with the forearm strap, but essentially firing it from the shoulder. So this law aims to close what is otherwise a loophole.
You know, I might just add a footnote to what the commissioner said about ghost guns. This initiative on ghost guns is one of the most important among all the measures that have been suggested here. Ghost guns are probably the biggest emerging threat right now. Technology is advancing on guns just as it is on everything else in life. And we are entering a point now where ghost guns made from plastic in somebody's home technology station or on the internet bought in parts could make a lot of these laws ineffective, because they're a way to have guns made in somebody's home office. And what Connecticut is doing here is enormously important, and the nation really ought to take a page from Connecticut's book here. The president's very focused on ghost guns. He has instructed ATF to do a regulation to ban them. I've proposed legislation that would do it, but Connecticut is showing how executive action, along with legislation, can make it possible.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.